Well, we've come to another point here at Muscle Car of the Week where we thought we would take a few minutes to answer some of the viewer comments that we get. We always appreciate getting feedback either on YouTube or on Facebook or in emails from our website at musclecaroftheweek.com. And we appreciate hearing the comments and the stories, and sometimes people ask us to clarify things. So we're going to take a couple of minutes today. Our first letter actually was a YouTube comment from an individual named JF, who said, referring to episode number 148, the 1973 Pontiac Trans Am, and he says, "We were just kids, but an older friend of ours bought one of these red Trans Ams brand new and then traded it for the cheapest Porsche 914. Even then, we thought he was pretty dumb." And that comment just kind of cracked me up. So, yeah, the Trans Am, especially a 73 Super Duty car, is probably worth a little bit more than a base model Porsche 914 at this point. But those 914s are cool cars too, I have to admit. So just thought that was kind of entertaining. Episode 141, the 1969 Pontiac Trans Am, we got an interesting question on that. An individual noticed that there was stamps on the firewall that say PTB. And we see these on a lot of F-body cars, and the stamps are sometimes different colors, sometimes the letters are all mixed up, and he wanted to know, what do those mean? So for an answer, we checked with our friends at the Camaro Research Group, which have a great website that articulates a lot of the details that these cars came with, Camaros and Firebirds, both being F-bodies. And the PTB is believed to stand for paint, body, and trim, and the stamps are like a certification. As the car went down the assembly line, if the paint was okay, the body fit was okay, and the proper trim was installed and up to the right quality level, each individual inspector would put a stamp on that firewall. And it's believed also that the stamps might be different colors because of a different shift. One shift during the day might have had a different color stamp than another one on a night shift or whatnot. And the position of these things really wasn't that critical as long as it got stamped on the firewall, and that's why they think that some assembly line workers just reached in and stamped whatever, and it might be upside down, it might be sideways. So probably no two cars are the same, but we've seen several of those in the Brothers collection that have the PTB stamps. And that's what we think those mean according to the Camaro Research Group. The next one is a comment from a gentleman named RareCat1 on YouTube, who asked about, in episode 184, the 71 Buick GS 455 Stage 1 convertible. He noticed we mentioned the rear end gear ratio and wanted to know what those numbers meant. So sometimes we talk about a 373 gear or a 410-to-1 or something like that. And what that means is the first number is the amount of revolutions the drive shaft makes for the rear tires to go around once. So a 373-to-1 rear gear means the drive shaft turns 3.73 times for every one rotation of the tires. The higher the first number, the more the drive shaft spins to turn the rear wheels once. That effect means that top speed is reduced because the engine's spinning faster to make the car move, but at the same time it means that car will be quicker accelerating. So that's why you hear like a 410 or a 456-to-1 as more of a drag race gear. And the lower number, like a 323 or a 307 or a 273, might be known as a highway gear because they allow the engine to turn at a lesser RPM going down the highway. So great question, something we never addressed. We just throw the numbers out. If there's something that we say and you want to know about it, feel free to comment and we'll do our best to answer. And speaking of wheels and tires, an individual who has a great YouTube name, it is Insert Random Clever Username 1, commented on our episode number 24, the 1970 Dodge Challenger TA that was in Panther Pink. And in that episode, I pointed out that I think those Dodge rally wheels have a neat optical illusion when you look at them from the side. The holes in the wheel are not perfect circles, but they reflect in the trim ring, which makes them look like circles. And he had commented that, yeah, they are an optical illusion. He thought the same thing. So we just thought that was kind of neat that other people sometimes think the way we do. Our next comment comes from a gentleman named Blake OT, and it's about the 1965 Ford Mustang 289K code that we had featured in episode 114. And Blake shared a pretty neat story, which I just wanted to share. He said that this particular car was exactly like the one his mom had, and she had hers since college, and all through Blake's life, he wanted this car and really appreciated the car. And it was the same color and very similar options as what this car that we featured on our show was. So he made the connection that really reminded him of his mom's car. And at one point for his 26th birthday, she actually handed over the keys, which made our friend Blake bawl his eyes out, you know, in appreciation. But that's pretty cool that these cars can conjure up these feelings of nostalgia and connections with family members and whatnot. And that's, you know, one of the reasons why we do this show. So Blake, we're glad that your mom's old Mustang is still out there and that you now have the keys, and thank you for sharing that story. It's pretty cool stuff. Next, we go to a recent episode, number 191, the 64 Ford 427 4-speed car, which got a lot of positive feedback. People really dug that big black muscle-bound 427 Ford. And on Facebook, on our Muscle Car of the Week page, 3 individuals of many comments, Frank Zimkowski, Rich Primavera, and Michael Cicluna, I probably said that wrong, but Michael Cicluna, all commented that either their dads or their father-in-laws had bought those cars new, not necessarily 427 cars, but they could identify with the big Ford 64 Galaxy. Again, that's part of the fun of the nostalgia of these cars, is you see one and you say, you know, I had one of those, or my dad had one, or a family member. And people ask us all the time about how are these cars chosen when the Brothers Collection is acquiring cars. And what you'll notice by watching this show is that the Brothers Collection isn't necessarily about having the most cars, although they certainly do have a lot. What they're looking for are specific versions of high-performance cars, limited production stuff, the rare versions of the more common cars for the muscle car collection, and they're carefully chosen. Sometimes they're looking for a particular car, and you just have to wait until one becomes available. It might pop up at an auction, it might pop up at a private sale. Somebody who is restoring these cars, you know, might contact them and say, hey, I got one of these. The cars are chosen to represent all the different manufacturers of American muscle cars. Some cars seem to be a little more prominent than others, and that's partially because certain cars are easier to document. For example, the Mopar products have what's called a fender tag under the hood, which is a stamped steel tag that articulates what that car came with new. So if it was supposed to have a 426 Hemi and a stripe and a painted bumper and an AM radio, it's all on that tag. So when they go to buy one, they can quickly check the tag and see if it's a legitimate car or not and not being misrepresented. Some of the Chevrolet products, for example, don't have that much information on the car. They might have a build sheet when they were first built, but a build sheet either could be missing or could be harder to, or easier to fake, to misrepresent the cars. So they do care about having legitimate cars, and when we show a car on Muscle Car of the Week, the story we tell about it is deemed to be as true as we know. We're not saying we're the world's experts, but we're always trying to give information that is accurate. Some people have commented in the past that they noticed sometimes we tell a story that's more detailed about a particular model versus this particular car. Sometimes we know more about what it is and a little bit less about the actual history of one particular car. So when we know the story of a previous owner or why it was purchased or where it was purchased, we try to tell those stories. But if we don't know them, we're not going to make stuff up. So we always try to be as accurate as possible. And another thing that people ask about is the level of involvement that the brothers have in the Brothers Collection. And they are 2 brothers. And it's pretty cool because these guys are very enthusiastic about the cars. They know everything about these cars. It's not just a couple of individuals that are buying them as investments. They are truly passionate about these cars. And like many of us, they grew up around them. They've got family members that were into them. Dad was into the cars. So they are keeping those memories alive by having this collection. And as you can imagine, it's kind of hard to share such a big collection of cars. And that's where they work with us. They wanted to share the cars with us. We share them with you. And we ask that you share them with friends. You know, we all know somebody who's very enthusiastic about their own car, about a Mustang or Camaro or whatever. They know everything about it, how many were made, what colors they came in and all that stuff. Well, that's how these guys are, except about all the cars they have. So they are truly people that you like to see be the keepers of these cars. And right now, the easiest way to share them is through these videos. So if you know somebody who likes muscle cars, we invite you to share these videos with them, and maybe it makes their day, and maybe we'll be reading their comments on a later episode of Muscle Car of the Week. In the meantime, thanks to the Brothers Collection for letting us go in and shoot videos of the cars. And thank you for watching. And if you have any feedback, just let us know.